We'll see. We open with a nigun, a wordless prayer, a little melody to get us on the same spiritual page, so to speak. We breathe together, we sing together, we take a moment during our nigun to shed, even if only for an hour or so, what's the mishigas of our lives, and just breathe in the moment. Yai bye 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 bye. Yai 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 bye 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 bye. It's always better when you sing with me. Yai bye 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 bye. Yai bye 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 bye. Yai bye 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 bye. Yai bye 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 bye. Yai bye 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 bye. Yai bye 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 bye. Yai bye 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 bye. Yai bye 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 bye. Yai bye 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 bye. Yai bye 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 bye. Yai bye 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 bye. Yai bye bye bye. How good and how pleasant it is to be together on this Shabbat. We have complex emotions when hearing of the news of the trial of at the Tree of Life Synagogue, the 11 people who passed that day, and additional those who are injured. One can never know what justice really is, and one can never feel fully free, even in the face of justice in the courts. We still hold grief in our hearts. But we are here together, and that's good, and that's pleasant. So let us sing Hine Ma Tov on page 128 in your prayer books. For those who are visiting who may not be familiar with this prayer book, our books are, they go from, well, they're backwards from, and we read from right to left instead of left to right, but there is transliteration for anyone who wants to sing along and join us in any of the Hebrew that's there. Hine ma tohu manaim, how good and how pleasant it is. Shevet achim gam yachad, brothers and sisters dwelling together. Hine ma tohu manaim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine tov u'nayim Shabbat achim yachad Hine ma 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 tov u'nayim Shabbat achim yachad. When you picked up your prayer books, I hope that you picked up the additional song sheet. There is a prayer. Yeah, they're on the shelf where the prayer books were. Well, we won't get to that one just yet. We'll do some other songs first. According to Talmud, Psalm 92, Shir L'Yom HaShabbat, was sung by the Levites in the ancient temple. It refers to our longing that every day should be filled with the peace, holiness, and rest of Shabbat. So let us meditate on the peace and holiness of this day upon which we now enter, and turn to page 140. 140. We'll just do the first few lines of this psalm. Mizmor shir Yom HaShabbat Todot l'Adonai U'izamer l'shimcha Elyon Todot l'Adonai U'izamer l'shimcha Elyon להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות תודות לאדוני וזמר שמך העליון תודות לאדוני וזמר שמך העליון להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות תודות לאדוני וזמר שמך העליון תודות לאדוני וזמר שמך העליון. Turning back 10 pages to 130, giving you a workout here. L'chuna ranana ladonai naria l'tzurishenu. Come, let us sing joyously to God. Raise a shout for our rock and our Redeemer. Not everything is mellow. I mean, we definitely aim for a calm and relaxed time, but it's also Shabbat. It is a joyous gift that we receive every seventh day. And it is also our obligation. It is we are commanded to be joyful. So we're going to do that. Are we happy? Well, I think even though the sun is not quite down yet, we want to rush Shabbat along. So I invite Amy and Ann to come on up and light the Shabbat candles for us so we can officially start our Chag. The blessing can be found on page 120. Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu l'chadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. When I keep Shabbat, God watches over me. It is a sign forever between God and me. Page 129, second song from the bottom. Ki eshmera Shabbat, El yishmerini. Ki eshmera Shabbat, El yishmerini. Ki eshmera Shabbat, El yishmerini. Oti oyad b'ahuvi. can take out your song sheets. On one side is the transliteration and also an English translation, and the other side is a copy of the prayer book with the Hebrew. This is Ana Bakoach. It's a Kabbalistic piyut, a teaching on the spiritual power of God's many names. Ana Bakoach is the first of two wedding songs in the Kabbalat Shabbat service. Ana Bakoach and the other Lecha Dodi. The Kabbalists found great power and meaning in numbers, and it's called gematria, the science in numbers. And in this meditation, we access the highest realms of spiritual energy through the 42-letter name of God, which is hidden in the acrostic in this poem. It's composed of 7 lines representing the 7 days of the week, and each line consists of 6 words. By speaking this prayer, Ana Bakoach, we indirectly speak this potentially powerful secret name of God by uttering the acrostic. And in doing so, we are said to imbue our souls with divine glow, preparing us for the holy union between God and ourselves when we say Lecha Dodi. So this is Ana Bakoach. And I'll start with a little yai-dai-dai to help you with the melody. But I'd love for you to sing along if you can. Yai-dai, yai-dai-dai-dai-dai, yai-dai-dai-dai-dai, yai-dai-dai-dai-dai. Tatir tzura Kabbalat Amcha Sagveinu Tareinu Tareinu Ana Bakoach Jaticha Tatir tzura Kabbalat Amcha Sagveinu Tareinu Nora Nagibor Sheyechudcha Kivava Shomreim Marachim Tareim Rachamim Sitchacha Tamid Gomleim Chasim Kadosh Chasim Kadosh Barov Tocha Na'el Naratecha Yachid Gerucha Penei Zochrei Kedushatecha Sharateinu Kabel Ushema Tzakateinu Yodea Talumod Ana Bakoach Gdoti Lecha Tatir Tzura Kabel Minat Amcha Sagveinu Tareinu Tareinu Nora. 139. L'chadodi. We will do verses 1, 2, 8, and 9. When we get to verse 9, this is when the bride enters the room, our second soul. So we rise as you would when a bride walks in the room. You rise, you turn around and face where she enters. So we face the door and we welcome Boi Kala, come, enter, O bride. Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat lekala Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Ishmianu el hamiuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad L'shem ultiferet v'litchila Lecha dodi Likrat kala Pnei Shabbat lekamena Likrat Shabbat lechovenecha Ki mekor habracha Mirash mikdem nesucha Sof maseh b'machashavat tehila Lecha dodi likrat kala Pnei Shabbat lekamena Yamin u'smol tifrotzi V'et Adonai taritzi Al yad ish ben partzi V'nismecha v'nagila Lecha dodi Likrat kala Pnei Shabbat mekamena Boi v'shalom hateret bala Gam b'simcha ובצוחנה תוך אמונה עם סגולה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת כלה Shabbat nekabela. Please remain standing before you sit down. We turn to page 144. Chatzi Kaddish. There are many forms of Kaddish that we pray in every service. It's a spiritual hallway from one section of our service to the other. We have sung psalms of praise and got ourselves ready, and we've welcomed our second soul, our bride, Shabbat bride, and now we are holy and we are ready to pray the Baruch Hu. And this is an old prayer, the Chatzi Kaddish, page 144. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברך יורתי וימליך מלכותי, בחייך וביומך ובחייך בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם לעולם היה, יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי קודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירה דיעלמא ויאמרו amen. Turning to page 146 for the Baruch Hu, our call to prayer. I will do the call, the first line, if you will do the answer, which is the second and third. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. You may be seated. Turning to page 148. This section is full of blessings of the many attributes of God, these next few prayers. This blessing is a blessing of the evening, the creation of the evening by saying the words, God created the world, by just speaking. And this is a prayer about speaking into creation, day and night, rolling away from darkness back to day, back to night. And we trust, certainly every day that I've been alive, it's happened. And we trust that it will be going on like that for eternity. And we imbue God's Spirit with in the turning from day to night with this prayer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bifanu maria yavim b'chokhmah poteach she'arim uvidona mishaneh itim u'chalif et hazmanim u'mesader et hakochavim b'mishmiotehem barakia kirtzono borei yom v'layla gorel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei Shemo El Chai V'Kayam Tamid Chayim Vahed Baruch Atah Adonai Hama'arim Aravim. Turning the page to yet another blessing of another attribute of God's. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amcha ahavta. Everlasting love you offered your people, Israel. Everlasting, unconditional, without judgment, without diminishment. That's not a word. Yes, it is. So I invite you to feel embraced in the arms of God. Ahavat olam beit Yisrael amecha avta amcha avta Torah mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadeta Akein Adonai Eloheinu b'shofteinu v'koreinu nasiach b'chukecha v'nismach b'divrei toratecha u'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed ki chem chayenu ve'orech yameinu uvachem nege yom v'layla nege yom v'layla ve'ahavatcha tasir mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. We will continue with the first and last verses of Shema on page 154. We'll do it in Hebrew and then in English translation. I'm holding on my tzitzit, which is something that we traditionally do when saying Shema and when saying the third paragraph. Is actually in this week's Torah portion that we kiss tzitzit to remind us. Well, there are many teachings about and I'm not going to give everything away today. We can talk about it later. But the tzitzit remind us to follow God's commandments and to be at one with God and to keep God in our hearts and in our minds. And even if God isn't quite there in our heart, it says here, Al Levavacha, God, these words that we speak sit on top of our heart. And so when we're ready, the heart can break open and the words will fall in. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושימנתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להוד על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים ללכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Oh, let's read it in English. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohim Emet. Let us read together on page 157, the top paragraph, to get us prepared for our song of freedom. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before we ever stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes in the wilderness, that there is no way to get there from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. And it is this journey that is our life. Mi chamocha, page 158. I gotta fix this. It's what happens when you open your guitar case and there's a broken string. sefele Norati lo sefele Malachut charahu vanecha Bokeh ayam nifne Moshe u'Miriam Zeili anu ve'amru Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Yain ha'idai 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 Yain V'ne'emar kifat Adonai et Yaakov u'yom et chazak minenu Baruch atah Adonai Ga'a Yisrael. This next prayer, the Hashkivenu prayer, which is found, the Hebrew side is page 160. The English that I'm going to do is not in the prayer book, but you may recognize these words because it's based on an old folk song. Hashkivenu is our blessing, our prayer for shelter as the night falls, and sometimes even in the daytime, we need God's sheltering wings to take care of us. There's always a little fear when the darkness comes, no matter what form it comes, and we pray that we will walk with the Holy One of Blessing through the dark. When I lay me down to go to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul will keep. And as my soul wanders into the deep, shelter me, please, with your wings. Let me walk around the block with you, lie under the night sky and howl at the moon. Let me have another chance to make a difference to someone next day when I wake. Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'ha'amideinu shomreinu lechayim U'fresainu sukat shlecha V'taknenu b'eitza tova milfanecha. When I lay me down to go to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul will keep. And as my soul wanders into the deep, Shelter me, please, with your wings. Shelter me, please, neath your wings. Baruch atah Adonai, הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו ולכל ישראל, ועל ירושלים. Turning to page 162. This is a statement, an agreement that we make with God. You asked us at the Mount if we will do as you commanded us, and we said yes, we will keep Shabbat as a covenant for all time, and a bunch of other things too, but that was definitely among them that day in the thunderous mountain. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, כי שש ידיים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. We rise for Amidah, the standing prayer. This is done in silence. This is your moment to step into the throne room and plea for peace to be remembered, to give thanks, to ask for peace. Amidah begins with the invocation on page 164. We will do, after the invocation, I invite you to pray silently, either the words of the Amidah prayer, or you feel free to close that book and say whatever is on your mind. Adonai Sefato Tiftach Uvi Latecha. Adonai, open up my lips lips, and my mouth may declare your praise. We close with a prayer for peace. The words to Oseh Shalom Bimromav, page 180 at the bottom of the page. Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Oyaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'yako Yisrael, Oseh Shalom Bimromav, Oyaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'yako Yisrael, Ve'yimeru Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'alko Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'alko Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'alko Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom. Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'yimaru Amen. Last week in Torah, we learned how after the prophetess Miriam spoke against her brother Moses, God lashed out in anger and she was stricken with leprosy. Moses cried out of concern for his sister, crying, El na refanallah. It is one of the most heartrending moments in Moses' life. It's the time, I don't recall another time where he cries out with such grief. God does heal her. It took him 7 days, but she was able to join and rejoin the kahal, the community. We say healing prayers in our congregation this week for Helen Steger Avera, Edna Hutcherson, Jerome Commissar, Jennifer Nielsen, Charlie Scharfman, Chaya, Sarah Bat Edga, Chana Bat Joya, Tzvi Hanft, Carol Troyana, Robert Ray, Pat Bloom, Orly Chava Bat Sarah, Joel Solo, James Beardsley, Marilee Newman, Sarah Murray, Diane Rothberg, Pesach Ben Liba Tzvi, Jay Krasner, Bill Tucker, and any other names you wish to speak aloud for healing prayers. We sing El Na Refanallah. El Na Refana Lo, please God, if you heal him. El Na Refa Lanu, please heal them. El Na Refana La, El Na Refana La, El Na Refana La, El Na Refana La. refuah shlema, that may they be healed with a complete healing. You can put your books aside for just a few moments while I share a little Torah. This is the hardest part of my week, preparing the Torah portion. Sometimes it just pours out of me. And other times it's just there's just too much and I can't figure out what to talk about. And so I go and I listen to podcasts, and I went all over the place this week. And I found the words of Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt, who I had the pleasure of getting to know during my years at seminary. She has a lovely blog called The Velveteen Rabbi. And I recommend that if you have to make sure you're spelling it correctly if you Google it, and it will try to put the T on the end. Don't let it happen. And she has several drashes that she does on each portion of the week. And sometimes I like them, and sometimes I'm thinking, that's not where I am this week. But this is something that I'm going to share most of what she did. I mixed a little bit of my own thoughts. This was from a year ago. So I'm sharing with you Rabbi Rachel Barenblatt's words. In this week's Torah portion, Shalach Lecha, Moshe sends 12 scouts to check out the land of promise. 10 of them returned terrified. The grapes are so big they require 2 men and a carrying frame. The people are giants. We looked like grasshoppers to ourselves, and so we must have looked to them. Caleb and Joshua promise that the land flows with milk and honey, but the other 10 are afraid, and the people revolt, crying out, "If only we had died in Egypt." God decides at this moment that the generation who knew slavery will not enter the promised land. Their spirits are too crushed by hardship. Their self-doubt becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The European colonists who came to this place, the United States, knew Torah stories, of course. George Washington alluded to America as the land of promise in 1785. And you don't have to travel too far around here to find a Canaan or a Goshen or a Salem, all biblical place names. For the many tribes and nations who originally had inhabited this land, the arrival of the Europeans was catastrophic because of foreign germs, foreign worldviews, and policies like the Indian Removal Act. Europeans coming to these shores was terrible news for Native Americans. We can hold that truth alongside the truth that many of our forebears emigrated to this nation seeking dignity and equality denied to the Jews elsewhere. My grandmother was one of them. She told me stories of how she narrowly escaped the horrors of 1930s Hungary, and that many of her siblings and cousins first lost their freedoms and then lost their lives. America was supposed to be a nation of equality where it would be safe to be Jewish, where we would strive to better ourselves and our communities alongside everyone else. And yet we know that America's promise of liberty and justice for all was never for all, only for straight white property-owning men at the beginning. The upcoming week we commemorate Juneteenth, a reminder of how long it took for the promise of freedom to reach enslaved Black people in Texas, arguably a promise of justice as yet unfulfilled. The enslaved were brought here by force, but even our forebears who came here willingly came in search of a promise that is not yet complete. Today, the promise of equal rights and justice may feel further away than many of us had known it to be. The indictment of Donald Trump and the January 6th hearings reawakened the horror of watching an angry mob storm the United States Capitol. And now we live the added horror of knowing that a large segment of the country doesn't believe that that insurrection was real or that it was even wrong. The same voices denying the facts of the presidential election and subsequent insurrection are also denying gender-affirming health care to trans kids. Many states have already banned that care, and others are considering following suit. Several states have banned abortion, and now that Roe versus Wade has fallen, some have already done so. And don't even get me started on the banning of books in our school libraries that would affirm the humanity of African Americans, LGBTQ+, and Latinx experience in the United States. None of this is consistent with the Jewish teaching or practice. Rabbis and lay people in every branch of Judaism support gender-affirming care and teach that everyone across the spectrum of gender and orientation is made in the image of God. Judaism has also long held that life begins at first breath. But the Supreme Court has struck down Roe and is poised to decide on whether or not to gut the federal government's ability to mitigate climate change. Given what we know about the current makeup of the court, that outcome isn't looking good either. I emphasize with the scouts who looked at the challenges ahead and felt like grasshoppers. So right on time, here come the scouts to remind us that despair is not a good option. Giving in to despair means giving up hope. Hope is a discipline. Hope isn't a feeling. It's a practice. It asks us to work. Just before we prayed Micha Mocha, we prayed these words, which I will read again. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before we ever stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching through it together. This moment may feel like wilderness, and it's easy to look at the forces arrayed against the environment, against the principles of human dignity and justice, against queer and trans people, against Black and Indigenous people of color, and against immigrants and refugees, anyone with a uterus, against us Jews, and we feel like those forces are giants and we are grasshoppers. But look again closely at the verse in this week's portion. We looked like grasshoppers in our eyes, and so we were in their eyes. We saw ourselves as tiny, puny, unable to impact the world around us, and so we became that way. But we can choose to see ourselves differently. We might not get all the way there, but that doesn't absolve us from trying. There's a famous passage from Pirkei Avot that we teach our children and must be reminded when our tasks before us seem endless. It is not incumbent on us to complete the work, but neither are we free to refrain from beginning it. I think of the land of promise as a direction, not a destination, like Moshiach Zeit, the Messianic age. The work is standing up for those who are more vulnerable than we. In Torah's language, the orphan, the widow, and the stranger. Standing up for immigrants and refugees, for trans kids at risk of losing health care, and for their parents. For everyone with a uterus in states where forced birth is becoming law, for Black neighborhoods at higher risk of flooding, and people in drought-stricken areas at higher risk of fire, for Mother Earth herself, so fragile and so full of life. Reverend Martin Luther King taught that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. I think we know now that the arc of the moral universe only bends towards justice if we push it and pull it and bend it with our own hands and hearts. It can bend towards justice. It has to bend towards justice. And it's Aleinu, upon us, to make that real. We need to see ourselves not as grasshoppers, but as a community that stands up for those who need us most. And with that, we rise for Aleinu, page 586. Starts at the bottom paragraph of that page. Aleinu shabeach ladon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא את השמיים ועושה הארץ, ומה ויקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבי מרומים, ואלוהינו אלוהינו האמת בקינו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת, אין עוד. Page 591. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. You may be seated. Kadishat Home, page 598. Today we acknowledge the yahrzeits of Douglas Bowling, Nancy Dukes, Anna Feigert, Thelma Gutnick, Rebecca Shaya-Chaim, Morris Hanft, Morris Heller, Natalie Komisar, Irving Lefkowitz, Harry Meth, Tzipora Rochwarger, Richard Michael Siegel, Seymour Sinkin, Doris Epstein Stein, Leon Stein, Allison Wellen, Mary Brager Whitkin, and we are observing Shiva for Lauren, wife of Melissa. Any other names you wish to add to this list? Those who are in mourning and those who wish to support them, please rise for the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hirte v'yamlich malchute, b'chaye chon uv'yomei chon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mavarach leolam ulmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudisha b'richu. Le'ilah min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata. Da'amiram bi'alma v'yimru. Amen. Yehi shlama Rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru, amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. There is one announcement here for Saturday, February 18th. It's what it says. I'm sure they meant June. No, they just got the date wrong. And all it says is join the traditional egalitarian minyan for their Shabbat morning service. So I'm pretty sure I saw in the email announcements that there were others. Yeah, that's what I mean, tomorrow morning. Yeah. But I thought I saw that there was a bar mitzvah, but maybe not. Okay. It is summertime. Not February. So in the spirit of summer and school's out and the living is easy, and the solstice is this week, I'm not sure I have the right chords, but I'd like to sing Adon Olam to Summertime. Page 625. You know the melody, the words are there. It's strophic, it's easy. Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem kol Yetzir Nira. Leid Masar V'chesoko Azai Melech Shemo Yikra Ve'acharei Kifat HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora tifara. Ve'hu echad ve'ein sheni. Lechem shilu le'achmira. Beli reshit, beli tachlit, velo haoz v'cham Yisrael. Ve'hu eli, ve'chai goeli, ve'tzochev li, ve'tzara. Ve'hu nisi, humanos li. Menat kosi beyom ekra. Beyado avkin rochi. Beit Ishan ve'ayira. Ve'im rochi yebiati. Adonai li Eloi Ra. Shabbat shalom. Kinda, yeah. Please join us for Kiddush and Motzi in the Omansky Hall. It's good to see you all. Maybe I should have used a capo on that one.